The real deals are on the air now. And now, live from the Swords of St. Michael Studios, it's The Real Deals, Kenneth and Farah Deal.
So, oh my gosh, we've already got some great people in there, and we've got hearts.
Oh, goodness. I was trying to turn the studio monitor down, and my hand got caught in a mouse, and somehow or another it moved down and clicked us in here.
Oh, my goodness. Welcome, kids, tonight. Yeah. It's Thursday Night Live with The Real Deals. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, ladies and kidlets and gentlemen and popcorn bowls. Tonight we continue our some educational curses. So don't go anywhere. Sit tight. And be
Don't
bright.
let the bed bugs bite.
No, we want to be bright tonight.
Come on, where's one of those famous Farah rhymes?
I just said be bright, okay?
We have any hangover questions from the chat room?
Oh,
from
I'm
last
sure
week?
There's lots of hangover questions.
No, it's too early for that. Ladies' night is Thursday night.
Oh my gosh, this is so funny. Look at what's showing up live. Not us. This is hilarious.
Oh, that's slow. Mm-hmm. Oh, so there's like a 5-minute delay?
Total 5-minute delay. So glad you all could join us.
Yes.
As we begin our little, what? Our little prayer to St. Michael.
Oh, because that's St. Michael. How could I forget? Yes. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
St. Michael, the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the malice and the snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, and we humbly pray. Do thou, Prince of the heavenly host, by the divine powers of God, cast into hell Satan and all the other evil spirits who roam to the world, seeking her in the souls. Amen. Most Sacred Heart of Jesus, have mercy on us all.
Oh, amen. In the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Yeah, yes. Everybody's just freezing up tonight, too. Hey, Russell. Hey, David. Hey, Cecilia.
Oh, yeah. It looks like it's coming out of here good. I guess it's the website.
It's just crazy tonight, kids. We kind of froze up a little bit about a half hour ago getting on live. And Cecilia wants to know who my little friend is here. And, as we all know, It's like... Everybody's got a little sneaky snake on their shoulder. We'll get to him later. Tonight we're doing Curses, kids.
Yeah.
And just to reiterate, if you're new here, we are The Real Deals, and we do our best to bring you the best of what's going on in the supernatural spirit world and how to help yourself, defend yourself, protect yourself and your loved ones from all the oogities, boogities, and anything else that could be going bump in your night. And if you cannot, if you missed us here, okay, you can always go catch lots of us on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is The Real Deals as well, and if you need more topics, information, prayers, go to our website, okay? And if you can't find it, Ken will tell you where. We are continuing the curses.
Good. So we'll start from 9. That's where we left off. We
left
trimmed the
9.
list so you could follow along.
And we thought, we just continue to go along.
Okay.
All right. Head it off, honey.
Here we go. Number 9. And as we continue up, so they're not in any necessary order, as we like to say. Curses may not happen as they are designed. Have you heard these people, of course, and they'll say, I've been using the Ouija board for 20 years, and Deb, who's not here tonight.
Yeah, she's working hard. Our dear Deb is working.
She's on assignment. She got
fingers to the bone.
And maybe she'll join us and chat a little bit. Who knows?
Yeah, after she eats, takes care of Shy and everybody else in the household.
This time bomb effect doesn't seem to have a limit. They have a much longer memory and patience than humans to wait for.
And centuries, kids.
20 years, 30 years is kind of out of the ordinary, but 10, 20 years?
Yes, exactly.
That's not. And then they'll look back or during an exorcism, the demon will reveal that it entered them when they were playing a Ouija board when they were 7 years old and they're 27. It's kind of like that. A curse works that way too when they find out. So the inside information reveals that in addition to people like, I wonder if I had to do with that. It will. So don't expect it to wear off.
No.
Either, as far as that goes, just like we were talking.
It won't do that automatically.
That's 11, so we'll have to go into down in detail.
Denise outed her. She's in chat. She must be munching away. Hi, Deb.
Deb what?
Thanks,
Which
Denise.
one?
Deb's in chat.
Oh, okay.
Yay! And by the way, it is Denise's birthday. I'd sing you happy birthday, but Ken told me that it wasn't appropriate when a 1 hour show. So I have to call you personally, Denise.
Well, you could say happy birthday. We're just not going to sing it.
Okay, whatever. Okay, get on with curses and not happening in time. Okay, let's explain a little bit about these whole supernatural critters, okay? They're like flying around, digging around, hanging around like little cockroaches on your wall and stuff. They don't have a timeline. I live in this little finite concept called time, and here it is, like square one. You're like, out of the box you come, screaming and kicking, and then you hobble along, and then eventually you go, you're all like crooked and everything else, and you're like ready to die, and you're like, oh. Okay, or you get in an accident or whatever. So this timeline is yours. Guess what? Demons don't have one. Demons have a set space that they're allowed to rule this entire place that we call Earth, okay? So your curses can happen to you, your kids, your great-grandkids, or a couple generations down. That's why you got to be really careful, guys. Super duper careful. Super careful.
Yeah, I'm sorry, folks. I think I only answered a small aspect of it. Happened as a designer. I don't know. Oh my gosh, I apologize for that. Yeah, as they're designed, I just mean it's like if, give you kind of a worst case scenario, if a witch puts a spell on you and she actually intends on causing you harm, a car wreck or whatever, or death. We'll say death because it's some ex-girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, who knows. And that's their intention, and all you get is everybody acting mean to you for a really long time. Your friends breaking up, and that's the best they can do. That means that aggression that they send out in the spirit, the best that it's getting you is not death, not harming you personally, but trying to harm you with words. So it's not designed to be that way by the person who's putting it on you.
Exactly.
So I'm sorry, I don't know. Was that number 8?
That was actually number 8 because you know what?
Oh, okay.
We had left last show and we hadn't really filled out some of the details about the timeline of the demonic, and that's why we wanted to make sure we started with that with a firm base of where we're coming from with curses, okay, kids?
Yeah, I was talking about number 8.
We call you kidlets because you guys are like also young, all right? And you're cute and you're sweet and all that good stuff.
It's a compliment when you get older.
Except you, Deb. You're our age, maybe a couple years younger, but...
Yeah. Oh, we're down to the last 2 minutes, and then we can get Deb in there, and we're going to have all the headphones plugged in. And
it's okay. She needs a break. Yeah. She works so late tonight.
Yeah, we're glad.
But she'll be back with us next week, and you don't want to miss next week because we have a special guest, which we'll call later. Like that button and share it if you can, kids. We're going to move on to number 9, right?
Subscribe if you're watching on YouTube.
Yes, subscribe if you haven't subscribed.
Okay, next one is... Canna, whatever that is.
Okay, no, it says curses may not happen as it is designed to happen, but they can be unique to the person's
that's what I just said, yeah. Oh, wait, okay, now you're confused. Okay, we weren't supposed to read 8, and I was actually thinking of 8 when you read 9, and because you have 9 marked as we're supposed to start from 9, right?
Who's in charge here?
Yeah, and none of us, apparently. And so, we're going to go over how to identify curses near the end of the list. So let's just go to number 10 to stay on track on that. Sorry about that. Right. That's the problem when it's over. It's a 2-hour presentation, and we only got less than half last week. And we'll take the questions from the comments section and the peanut gallery. Okay, so the next one is yes, Christians can become
shall we do
be
the
affected.
Can dance?
There's some ideas still out there by the people who aren't experienced, and they say that true Christians can't be possessed, true Christians can't become cursed. Well, it depends a number of variety of things. What do you call a true Christian? And then they tell us, and it's like, well, how do you know that qualifies even you?
Exactly.
Sometimes it happens. And it could be the victim soul scenario, whatever like that. We don't want to get into that too much, but don't buy into this idea that, like human possession's like, oh, the Holy Spirit's inside me. There's only room for one spirit at a time, so I can't become demonically possessed. Well, how liberal are you as a Christian that you might allow demons to come in there because you're appeasing the ones that you think are not there? I mean,
well, this goes to the
deep.
whole last point you were making about something being unique to a person's virtues, okay?
Yeah.
Kids, as we know, a virtue is a good done for the right order. And a virtue is something that is, needs continual practice. A virtue is something that we aspire to because we aspire to do the right thing that is, it's important, and to maintain justice. And whatever is going on for a curse that a Christian says, oh, I probably can't be cursed, you may be afflicted in a small way in order that you learn how to practice virtue.
Good one.
Because
the test.
That's a beautiful thing. I was in prayer today, you guys, and I really don't do this very often because I'm not into the whole sharing Oprah moment where you talk about you all the time. But I'm thinking, what is it? What is it that makes us have to go to the dark side to actually be able to appreciate the light? And if you think about it, everything horrible, rotten, evil, nasty, every little nasty thing that has ever happened to you in your life, what was it? It was a mirror of what you don't want. It was a mirror of what you don't want happen to anyone that you love. It was a mirror that you don't ever want to look into. And what did it do? It pushed you to be better. It pushed you away to do something differently. It pushed you to do something for somebody else's higher good. It pushed you to be a servant. And that's basically how evil doesn't even understand that it serves the greater good and the justice of God. And that's our point here, kids, is that a curse can be serving God and can be serving for you, in a sense, to be a better person. So, we're not making a judgment call saying that their curse is bad, but you can't say as a Christian, I can't be cursed, because you don't know.
Or because you think it's in the Bible.
You're not sitting up there hanging out with God going, oh, no, I'm not going to let that person be cursed, because that ain't going to happen. We just, we can't presume to know the mind of God, basically. Ta-da.
Yeah, God knows the ultimate fate, and if he sees that, let's see, if they go on this trek for very long into the future, next 20 years, I see their soul will be lost. This is so much better to suffer this now and have them jar them off of that at the Y of the fork to get them to go to the right instead of the left, that kind of thing. Yeah, you don't know. I mean, don't try to predict the mind of God. Just try to accept it and deal with the valley and pray. And you might even be taught to get closer to Jesus, like with the hauntings and the possessions and everything. It's a hard lesson, like the diabetic who can no longer ingest so much, and they got to get their weight down, they got to change their diet, and that's a spiritual diet call a lot of time, just like we're cursed if you have a haunted house or oppression and possession too.
Very much so.
Questions from chat, and Deb's in there.
Not yet. Deb's in there, so I can always pester her. But we've got a lot of fabulous faces and a lot of new people, too. Welcome, new people. Like and share. Subscribe on YouTube, cutie pies. I see Michelle
YouTube/The Real Deals. YouTube.com/The Real Deals. Spell it all.
Kevin, yeah, exactly. Robert, our brother, OFS, is in there.
Yeah.
And, we've got Brandon and Rach. It's nice to see you guys back.
Yeah, Robert, we're having another Star Wars party in September.
Total Star Wars party, folks.
We saw Solo and we loved it. So you people out there to
onward and upward, the galaxy awaits.
Yes, okay, number 11.
So 11.
Gosh, I hate to cross associate these things, but yeah,
it is a cross. Oh, I got lots of hearts. I love it. Thank you, guys. Sorry.
Do they wear off over time, these curses, or do they affect you just once? Kind of like when someone gets a contract hit on you and then the guy goes over and he takes some shots at you and then he goes home. That's just it.
A curse isn't rubbing up against wet paint, kids. You can rub up against wet paint and rub it off, take the sandpaper and go... Might come off over time.
Might reappear.
Your mama might be able to scrub it out good, but get it out totally. I don't know. I think a forensic team should still be able to find that paint in those jeans.
Yes, and this is the thing you should expect too. That if you don't think you got it enough, don't be satisfied with something lighter. You need to still step up your prayers. This is why we have that formula, Fairy. That We don't seem to say 3 times anymore. Now we seem to go to 9 all the time. You notice that with the breaking curses prayers?
Exactly.
The solutions talking about later in the list.
Yeah.
But that's why we have to customize what we advise, just as people would have to customize it for themselves if they were looking and finding their own solutions, or somebody else advising.
Totally.
This is a variable thing again, too, just like they won't happen as they're designed. It depends on the individual,
and as
the
we said
spirit,
before,
and
kids, we don't want you guys being afraid about being cursed. All right? That's why having a relationship with your Creator is so important.
Yeah. And that's the ultimate
Daily.
goal, too. If it does not bring them to God, to solve these things even, then they're missing the point. You know, that you got a lot of times it's so-called evil, in some cases it being only because the outcome doesn't end up being evil.
I agree.
You go running the light out of the darkness, that's a good. All right, number 12, does a curse have to be dealt with directly? And this what it means is that we said something earlier about a myth that you have to find out what the curse is, and you have to do, you have to go get some chicken's blood and put it in some baking soda or whatever. I'm just making some stuff up. I don't want anybody getting any ideas.
Toadstool, I have new, and some larkspur, and let's see, what other kind of herbs can? Oh, sage is always fun.
And directly is with the, let's see, what do we mean by directly? Let's make sure. Do we? Okay. All right. Okay. This is all right. See, I had to look at my crib sheet over here because it's like, what did I mean by directly? It might be a slow grind.
So we're on number 12 already? I'm still on number 11. You need to announce it. Because
I didn't have anything. I didn't really hear anything more come out of you. So I said number 12. I didn't.
I didn't hear you.
Okay. Pay attention, class and teacher. No, we're off over time. There wasn't much more to say about it. Anyway, dealing with directly. If you do a rosary, okay, see, it's what I meant by this is something that we ran into lately with some clients and stuff, that I said if you just do a daily rosary and you don't directly ask to be released from this curse and that it's broken and that these spirits sent upon you after it's been identified as such. There's so many ways to get curses. I mean, and a lot of times that's done by default when we meet people, if it fits the criteria of being demonic at least, just to be on the safe side. But directly means that if you don't do it directly, you just do your regular going to mass and stuff like that, that it'll be a slow grind. It'll have a slow, it'll be lasting, but it'll take a while to go away. And who can afford that? Can you afford your finances to tank further? Can you afford your health? Bring it up. Well, also financial problems, missing work, affecting your family, maybe infecting others. Usually the person, it's not a virus that spreads. Usually it's a strange kind of thing. The doctors aren't sure. They think it's fibromyalgia or something. So it usually affects the person directly in that sense. So what I mean by dealt with directly is that you're going to have to say prayers and take solutions that deal with it directly. And, in the St. Benedict Medal and the Blessed Mother, you get armed up with the armor of God can be not just assuming that being a good Catholic, being a good Christian is, because it wasn't enough before.
No.
And you say, well, I did back off of things a little bit lately. I think I'll start doing my rosary again. Well, that can help. Once you get it out, it'll keep it away. It does really work for the peace in the house.
No,
but
exactly.
You're going to have to deal with it directly by, saying prayers that that are breaking curses prayers.
Yes.
So that's what we mean by that. That summarizes that pretty good. Anything to add, Mrs. Farah?
On what number?
Number 12. Curses have to be dealt with directly. Anything else? Going
Actually,
once? Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it doesn't have to be dealt with directly. If the person has an excellent prayer life, they have a spiritual director, they have a pastor or an immediate superior that they are regularly talking to. If you believe you're cursed, you're going to notice a definite change in just about all of your patterns of life. Things that were once peaceful will be totally upended. People and relationships that you once got along with may be prickly, nasty, and we're not talking just one or two. There'll be a lot of things going on. This is why when somebody calls us and says, well, I've just got, this is going on, but other than that, everything else is okay. You have to look at the bigger picture here, okay, kids? because curses usually affect you on multiple levels. And if that's the case, and you have a good spiritual director, you have a good relationship with God, and you're doing your prayers, it's not so much that it doesn't have to be dealt with directly, but you can attack and head off things before they get out of hand. And the curse has really had, havoc in your life. And I think that's a good thing to remember, that's why we have those people in our life that we look up to and that we can call when
most people don't have it. Yeah.
No, a lot of people don't, because we all think that we're islands and we can get along without other people, or we think that we're just fine, or our prayer life is great, or we go to church, or we give and we donate and we give blood, and we take care of all these people. And there are so many things that sometimes we just leave out, being grateful or thankful, and thinking, if I had a closer relationship with, an elder at the church, a deacon, pastor, you'd recognize this stuff. Because that's another thing, too, is that when you're close to people that are holier than you and that have been on some of the paths you have, they can recognize when something's different with you. They can say, hey, there's something going on. They may pick up something that you don't. That's why this one, does a curse have to be dealt with directly? Not necessarily.
Yeah.
If you catch it early in time, it's like anything else. If you catch diabetes early in time, does it have to be dealt with directly? Do you have to have the shots and everything else and the daily skin pricks? No. It doesn't have to be dealt with directly. What has to be dealt with directly, like a curse, you have to change certain things. That's all I wanted to add.
Thank you very much for that.
Tony has a quick question before you get on to the next one. Can a curse cause a demonic infestation? What TV usually calls the haunting of a house, which is a good point, Tony.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, my girlfriend from Michigan joined. Judy Osborne. Hello, fellow Franciscans. Her husband's a Franciscan, sorry. Okay, answer Tony's question.
She's yet to be a Franciscan.
Yeah. Can a curse cause a demonic infestation, what TV usually calls the haunting of a house?
Oh, yeah, that's part of it. Any person, place, or thing can be cursed, or it can be affected by a curse. Something of a cursed nature, bringing something into your house is effectively. And we were talking, I guess we should have redefined it when we said, we'll start off with what? A definition, not the Wikipedia, not the encyclopedia, but the spiritual warfare definition of a curse, which is more to detail rather than a short definition with a pronunciation key. So forget about that stuff. It just means a demonic effect or attachment, more or less, in a curse, because there's nothing else that really would do that thing. There's nothing else that has that nature. You just don't put negative energy on stuff. There's intelligence. And that intelligence could be a very small level demon, or very many of them, or one big one, like we talked about with Satanism traps last week.
Exactly.
Satanic sites of worship and some of those. So I guess, of course the answer is yes. And the first thing you'd probably hear is they'll still have to go through their stages unless you brought an object into the house, where the knocks show on the front door. 3 knocks, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's the other pattern. And then you might hear the scratches and so forth in the house and particular areas. Work into the cursed person's bedroom, eventually hearing a knock on the door or in the headboard, and then starting to touch them in their sleep, like touch their feet or whatever.
Yes.
Depends on the type of curse. That's where it depends on it. If it was a hateful one designed, to get revenge on them, which is what most of them are. But they, like I said, when an object's cursed because it was around someone who was evil, it didn't actually direct it toward you.
No.
You just brought in the attachments on the item that was cursed.
Exactly.
And it just got the proximity curse that we talked about last year. Actually, number 1 on the list, proximity. Well, it's supposed to be last year, huh, Farah?
I know. Time flies, doesn't it?
The way the show's going on. We're just moving along there to show them what's going on.
Exactly. And I'd like to add, Tony, the question you pose is, see, the questions are never simple. They're never cut and dry. And when you're curious about, hey, can a curse cause a demonic infestation, what TV calls a haunting of a house, TV is a glamorization and it's a sensualization. What I mean by sensual, I mean it is designed to heighten your senses in any way, shape, or form and keep you hooked, okay? And in that regard, they will use whatever sort of infestation they can to keep you coming back for more, because that's Nielsen ratings. And as far as the curse goes and them showing it as a demonic infestation, there's lots of reasons for demonic infestation. That could be like a totally different topic here, but we're going to focus on curses. So as far as a curse, from my experience and my experience with Ken, as far as a curse inviting a demonic infestation, what we usually see is, okay, as we know, everything is by God's express will. That he allows something to happen to somebody that otherwise is very good, very pious, they lead a holy life, that would only be by God's express will. Such as, we had somebody that had basically become more, shall we say, religious and observant after receiving a curse that affected them physically. Did it cause demonic infestation in the house? No. This is a different case. What happened
varies too.
Is that it does vary. That's why I was saying that there's certain variables here that come into play, that this caused him to see things and to feel things that were not necessarily there. Was that a demonic infestation? Yes, it was a minor oppression of him physically, his eyesight, his environment, and to the sense that it really affected his health in a good measure. Was it a haunting of a house? No, not in the way TV shows it, but he was oppressed, and it was a curse. And it didn't affect him till years later, and after he had left the country of origin of the curse. And it was after, when he had become happy, and like I said, he'd begun to live a really religious life, and he was really happy, and then all of a sudden it started taking increments of his sanity, of his peace, of his, his spiritual life. He became desolate and not feeling the general consolations of having a peaceful prayer life. So, when we are looking at the ability of somebody else to place a curse upon you, we have to look at a certain set of factors in the person being cursed. Where was he at when this curse was being placed? Actually, he was living a life of basically what we would call, he was living a immoral life. He was living a life that basically he had no boundaries as to good or bad, so he was doing things that, were basically frowned upon.
In the least.
But yes, in the least. He wasn't doing anything terribly illegal, but in God's eyes, he was not living the godly life he'd been called to by his baptismal promises and his communion promises, okay? So, as you go and grow in faith, kids, what those promises that we make, when you go back on them and you say, okay, like let's say you're baptized in the Lutheran Church, and you grow up and you go through, the educational process, and all of a sudden you decide you're going to join a excuse me, don't be upset, you're going to join a rock band and you're going to go sleep around with a bunch of people and, do a bunch of drugs. That's not good. You're turning your back on God, opening yourself up for demonic infestation, opening yourself up for other people to curse you through having intercourse with you, and a host of other things. Now, is God going to say, hey, I'm not going to let this happen because I really love this person? No, that God's going to say, this person, they kind of like stopped loving me and paying attention to me. So, I guess they got to learn the hard way. God takes his hands off because he sees you're perfectly capable of handling your life. So I know this is a long-winded explanation of a curse and, the supposed haunting of a house, but this is very applicable here. Every person, every situation is different. We have to be careful what we allow into our lives, what we allow into our bodies, what we allow into our minds, okay? That's the point. And then we have to look at, when we lay our head down at night, are we grateful? Are we thankful? Do we look at ourselves and say, hey, what was the best thing that happened today? And, how was I thankful for it? And what was the worst thing? And what could I have done a little bit better to serve the justice of somebody else? That's the point of being cursed, kids. We can all do just that eensy-beensy little bit better. So listen, we've got to go to a break right now. We want everybody to take 5. Grab another bowl of popcorn, get some hot tea, pet your little puppy. Just don't go anywhere, because in about a minute and 20 seconds, we're going to be right back with our snack. The Real Deals.
Be right back with more. Hello, this is Brother Kenneth. You can help support our ministry by subscribing, liking, and especially viewing our videos on our website, which are designed for self-help and education to help yourself and help others. And it's all free. Make sure you check back every week because we'll have new content loaded every week, at least another episode of The Real Deals TV, and share with your friends. You can also click on the bell icon next to the subscribe button near the top right of the screen. It'll give you notifications as soon as we get new videos uploaded, as we'll continue this huge library of education, unlike anything else that you've seen on the web so far. Putting the real truth, the real facts, none of this mamby-pamby stuff that has all of this new age stuff, witchcraft, keys of Solomon, none of that stuff is going to be here. Just pure, unadulterated Christian Judeo solutions that work. That's at youtube.com/therealdeals. Or you can surf there from the Swords of St. Michael.org. Next week, Karen Smurl, featured in the story portrayed in the movie also called by the same name, The Haunted, which we have the old TV versions on our Real Deals website if you want to go check it out there. Or you can buy the book and read it. Good case study.
Very good case study.
It's a true story.
And it's severe, Ken.
I don't think it's embellished.
Very severe. No, not embellished at all. It's one of those rare ones that, these people didn't go out seeking fame and fortune. They didn't go, say, hey, paint my house, paint my portrait, paint my ghost. Here, let's talk to my ghost. These people were harangued, they were harassed, they were hurt, they were flipped, they were tripped. It looks like tornado weather outside, kids. Anyway, thank you so much for coming back and joining us. Once again, we're The Real Deal. Subscribe if you can. Like and share. Like this video, please, 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 because it pumps it up in the whole little, what's it called? The algorithms of Facebook and on YouTube.
You got the terminology.
Algorithms, I know.
That's a guy named Al.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Real Deals. Follow us on Facebook, Kenneth and Farah Rose Deal. Or no, you took the rose out.
Oh,
so
you can't say the F. You can't say the F word.
Oh, that's right. We can't say the F word. Woo, baby.
Oh, it's a good and bad thing that YouTube actually transcribes our videos. So if you're trying to sneak a mental break at work and you want to watch us,
a mental
put the closed captioning on and it'll catch most of the words correctly. I noticed. I thought that's pretty cool. That's the good thing about having good mics too.
That's pretty strange, isn't it?
Yeah, I can go in and correct it too. I can take the script and type it in where they got the word wrong. Like deaf versus death, the old Colossus movie.
Oh yes,
reference there.
Our favorite cheeseheads from Wisconsin's are in the house.
And I want the question is that we noticed that when a curse is put on somebody, it happens really fast instead of dragging on like when you move into a house that's haunted. And when it's directed at you, it does move a lot faster. I just wanted to add that.
Oh, I got some more hearts.
And we'll move on with the next one. What's the next number there?
Okay, the next one, kids, thank you so much for being patient with my long-winded answer there. I've got to go by you, dear.
Oh, some curses worse than others. Okay, that is the next page.
That's like some husbands are worse than others.
That's right. Flip the next page.
Okay. Oh, I got to flip. Ooh, flip, flip.
That's page 2.
Flip, flip, flip. Okay, that's number 13.
Yes.
Okay, so kids, we're on number 13.
And then we're going to go into how, just to be more thorough on this stuff. And we'll get the rest of this in. We're not going to divide this into parts.
No, we're going to definitely see if we can just pack it in,
so
kids.
Hang in there, okay?
Hang tight, put your seatbelt on, and grab that cheese.
Literally. Are some curses worse than others? And there's stories to share from past and present as well. Remember what I said on the first set, and you can find that on YouTube, and I think we still have it on the live feed you're watching right now, so not to say the word. And the satanic traps that we talk about when you find a true satanic site, not a bunch of Slayer, Ozzy Osbourne fans or whatever that decide they like doing the hand signals and stuff. I'm talking about the real ones who do the rituals. Those seem to be the most Nazi. Voodoo.
Yes.
and some of these other things that, honor and venerate with some organized kind of form of religion instead of just dabblers, they will have a more profound effect.
Well, and can we go into that just a little bit? I don't want to get you off your track, babe.
No, that's right on track.
The point of it is, what he's trying to explain to you kids is that when we talk about cults, okay, because some people call the Catholic Church a cult, they call the Episcopal Church a cult, they call this and that a cult. Cult and culture, okay, kids? Culture comes from cult. What we're talking about is dangerous cult practices. We're talking about things that have a history of, decades and thousands of years of practice that have evolved over time and come out from being just a purely pagan superstition to shall we say, an accepted practice that has its roots so deep. It has a much greater and stronger effect than something that is simply just made up and just brought out. Because certain things that are just kind of thrown out there and have only been around for like 50, 70 years do not have the effect, do not carry the weight as something that's been practiced for, let's say, 3,000 years.
Totally. Yeah, I think they're trial and error kind of things. Like some of the things were entered into the church that was already there, but they found a way to explain it better. Now, if you go the other way and you kind of devolve, because if you go more towards evil, it's still devolving, even if you perfect the art of being evil.
Yes,
and you're looking at something that had all those years to be honed and whittled and perfected by demons that would appear to their former prophets or worshipers. So yeah, it does make a huge difference. If someone starts a new cult, it's not going to be as powerful.
No, it's not. And as we've seen in some of the cases we've dealt with, some of these really bad ones, especially some of the satanic cases, things that I thought 20, 30 years ago were basically kind of just disgusting, harmless, hedonistic, paganistic. People today are calling alternative lifestyle, and it's so gruesome, and the abuse is so horrendous, and it's so satanic, it makes me sick just to think about it, kids.
Yeah.
There's some really awful stuff out there.
And
the people are so afraid to leave because the curses are so insidious that when they do leave, they're plagued with visions of, their food looks spoiled. Things smell horrible. They get all these physical. This is how bad the curses can be in some of these satanic cults. It really takes intense intervention with some of these cases. Intense intervention. So, I'm sorry, Ken. Go ahead.
Oh, that's great. All this pertains to. Everybody probably knows already. You ever notice how there's no simple yes or no or black and white? You know why? Because it's just this gray shades is necessary, and most people don't cover it. This is why we got to go into the detail to make it really an educational thing. And this is an educational show. And
we try to be as educational as possible. And that's another thing, kids. We're not PhDs. We don't pretend to be PhDs. We don't pretend to know it all. If we don't know something, we're going to go look it up and help you out.
Yeah, we'll admit
My husband's a certified catechist, okay? We study theology. We study demonology. We're constantly trying to learn so that as we find out more, as we experience more and learn more, we share it with you. So what you're getting is a sum total of, 40, over 80 years experience here, kids. And we're just trying to make sure that you can say no, don't do it, and it won't happen. So
that's the big thing too, free will.
Yeah, free will.
That was number C.
You never lose it, kids. You never lose it.
Voodoo Satanism, harder to break. We addressed that one. See, and that was
exactly.
Curse from continuous spell casting is when you live next door to somebody, or someone still sees you at work and they resent you for breaking up with them, or for. You remember what Father Chad said about people in Italy?
Oh, exactly. Exactly. That was pretty crazy.
And so it's kind of a proximity thing again. You remind them that you're there, not so much being next to them or anything. You remind them, and they go, oh, yeah. Like when you see someone sickly,
yes,
and then you say prayers for them. Well, they do the opposite. They go, oh, I hate that person. So
I know. It's
if you got
weird,
anything more to
isn't it?
add, but I think that kind of summarizes some curses more worse than others.
Are
and
you
how
kidding
can they
me?
be
They're
worse.
just disgusting. I got to say hi to Dawn real quick. She finally made it.
Brent's Dawn?
Yeah, Brent's Dawn. Brent, he's going to
Hey,
he's going to be the dancing best man, and we're going to get video, aren't we, Dawn?
Yeah,
because we're putting it on your show, or your show, our show. So are some curses worse than others? You know what? The
We'll
one
have to
that
put them on our show, and then we'll make it their show.
that's right. We'll make it their show as they dance their way to happy moments. Okay, when you're talking about, the person hexing next door in the apartment building, there are so many exorcist kids that tell us before you move someplace, it's a good idea to know your neighbors. And if you don't know your neighbors, you need to find out about the school. You need to find out the basic demographics of that area. Who are your neighbors? What are they practicing? You need to take a close look. And if you're not familiar with cult symbols, hexagrams, if you're not, we had a case in Canada where this gal was so cursed. We're talking, this woman had been fighting with a neighbor for, gosh, what was it, Ken, like 10 years? The neighbor was actually putting curses and painting him in the window facing this woman's house. Did she know that before she moved in? No. It looked like a quiet, upscale, nice neighborhood. All right. Was there any indication? Yes, there was. And I'm not going to say exactly what was on the person's porch, but when they moved in, they saw that this one neighbor had specific, shall we say, indicators that she was not Christian. And now I'm not saying that you should only move in a neighborhood where everybody's sporting crosses and sporting pictures of Jesus and this sort of thing, but you need to knock on the door and say, hey, I'm so-and-so, and I'm looking at a house in your area. How are you? If you are practicing a relationship with your God, something is going to prick your neck and say, get the hell out of there. And you're going to run like crazy. Because you have a certain grace that's going to protect you, kids, all right? So find out where you move in so you don't experience some kind of hell that you sink all your money into a house and you can't get away from these people. I mean, this was the tip of the iceberg. This woman not only painted her house, she cut holes in her fence. She actually painted symbols and put them in the yard, cursing her neighbor. I'm not even going to tell you the hell this poor woman went through. But by the time we got a hold of her...
Pretty bad curses.
Yeah, very, very bad curses. It's like it's been a year later and she's still in recovery mode.
She can't get out of the house.
No, she can't get out of that house.
Yeah, people get locked
and
into
it's like,
that. It's a shame.
And then, people, when they don't know about curses, they go buy mirrors. Why would you buy a mirror to curse someone back? Or why would you resort to going and having somebody else put a spell on them back? It's done all the time because people don't know any different. And this person, sad to say, was Catholic.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Don't use
so,
those kind of things,
when you've got a resident person hexing you next door, kids, it's time to call a priest in. All right? Call your pastor, call your priest, have the place blessed. Bless the socks off that person so that person is so uncomfortable, they've got to get out of there. You're not getting out of there. You're going to stand your ground and you're going to claim it, okay, for God?
On our page, Breaking Curses Prayers, we'll go over the solutions later. One of the things in there is actually saying prayers for the person, Our Father, Hail Mary, Glory Be, that for the person who persecutes us, not remembering the line, we now pray, Our Father, Hail Mary, Glory Be. It's important to do that. Jesus being nailed to the cross saying, Father, forgive them. When he's being nailed to the cross, at that time he's being nailed to the cross, this woman, like the others, are going to have to keep praying every day as long as they think the curse is coming. And this symbol is there if they have it under their bed, in their pillow.
Yeah, how do they know?
Yeah.
How do they know? Seriously.
And that's kind of what it's like. But it's not, well, she might have snuck something in her house, too. But we're not there. We can't. We
don't know.
We pray and go and look and use our, a cop sense of a certain kind of Sherlock Holmes.
Hold on a second. I got to answer Deb real quick. She said it sounded like a recluse. No, the woman that was cursing her, Deb, she was a neighbor that had a husband. She had 2 grown children, and she was an angry white witch. Okay? She wasn't a recluse. She was an angry white witch that was going to a local store and buying everything she could to curse her neighbor. Why?
Something to do
There
with the
was
fence?
no excuse.
I think it was something to do with the fence, like something.
Well, it had everything to do with the fence that, her neighbor put up a new fence. Her neighbor put the stone fence up, basically making her wood fence obsolete. Remember that? And she was jealous and she was angry and everything else. It was
it's continually angry. It's like some people just don't get over it.
It was just like it triggered something and it just went off. Yeah. And it didn't matter. I mean, the husbands would talk and say hi and be nice to each other, but the woman was seething hot with rage.
Yeah, that's
still hasn't stopped.
Ones.
It's still going on.
Yeah. Too bad she can't get out of the house. We get locked into these mortgages.
Oh, I know. And when you've sunk all your cash in there and you're just cash poor, and it's like you're living on your credit cards and everything else.
Mm-hmm. You have to get religious fast.
So bad for that poor lady.
You can minimize the effects, but you have to get religious fast. I'm not talking about professed religious either, but the life of it. That Mass daily. And we do that because of the crap that we get. We can get just as much trouble as they can by interfering directly.
And that's the problem.
And that's why we go to Mass daily, and the kids go to Mass 3 times a week, even in the summer. Mm-hmm. And their confession on a regular basis, all of those things. Daily rosary, definitely. Padre Pio said,
oh, exactly.
You want peace? You want, say your daily rosary.
Okay, let's get on with it. The voodoo, let's see, that was part of 13 voodoo solutions, harder to break. Okay, we already
14.
Talked about that, right?
14.
Yeah. Okay,
oh, this one's up your alley, too, because you're kind of like my hound dog on this stuff. Some stuff I don't recognize because of the... Before me and her got married, she has a really good great track record for helping people narrow down haunted items, cursed items, occult items. And this is very important because... we talked about Father Amorth, and there was a voodoo thing inside someone's pillow, and then he asked the possessed, in the name of Jesus, why do you keep coming back? There's something inside her pillow. They cut it open and they found a cursed voodoo item or something in there. So you see how important this can be sometimes. Why you have to go and turn this place over like a cop looking for drugs, or
Seriously.
A mother looking for porn or drugs on their kids, teenagers.
And this is the importance, you're talking about finding these cursed items, or these haunted items, or something that's been given to you to make you sick and physically ill. Mm-hmm. And this is why,
all these things.
It tells us kids, if you're not, Bible-based Christian, maybe you ought to be, it tells us, never eat with an angry man. Why are we warned never to eat with an angry person? Just like this neighbor was very angry. Anger creates bitter bile, and this in a sense is a warning of a possible curse. If somebody is giving you something sweetly, giving you something to eat it, don't eat it. Okay, here, I made you this. That's nice. Thank you very much. Throw it in the toilet. Okay. And the reason I say this is not everybody that comes to you that tries to make amends is seriously making amends, and a lot of things that. We have somebody with us tonight that received cursed objects, and she thought she was getting, some sweet things that were wonderful mementos. These were from the family, and these were being passed on. And tucked inside these boxes, you guys, were occult items, okay? Like specifically used for, shall we say, necromancy, for calling upon the dead, for specifically interacting with the dead, that were... to where it took the person a while to realize, oh my gosh, this person is trying to make me do the same thing they're doing. These are cursed objects. Having them in your house, even if you don't know about them, still affects the household.
Due to severe weather, we are experiencing technical difficulties. Please stand by.
Okay. What a strange night. So that didn't connect, so I think we're connected now. So we're going to resume just so we can get this done, even if it's just solo. Just so I have it. I don't want to do 3 shows on the same topic, and split it up. But thank you, Mr. Tornado. Not. Okay, so we were at finding cursed items, and tips for that was the last thing. And that is literally a topic in itself, that the note on this It could be that you go into a detective mode looking for things that are New Age and cultish, which is obvious. But what about when you do the background research, such as one, did you exactly saying to the client, did this experience or these experiences seem to swell up, and people will pinpoint. Well, come to think of it, is after I got this box of items from my relative, and usually that's when they noticed that there was something new agey or something in there. And I don't want to go into details what I mean by new agey. People think, oh, I love new age stuff, or whatever. Okay. I'm not going to go into the detail because it would take up a whole show about how to find cursed items, and we have a lot of stuff about that in the books too. But finding cursed items is important, and there are tips that are related to it, but you have to be smart about it and how you approach the whole thing, because they may be things in disguise, and you have, it makes a difference where it came from, not just what the item is. As you'll see, one of the things down here in 19 says objects used for evil or belong to someone evil. That's also relevant. So moving on to 15, solutions for curses. Apologize to the comments as I can't be in there. Got to do a little bit of everything here. This may not even be something that I'm going to archive to the real deals, but I hate not being able to finish a show. Yeah, I'm your favorite band, who comes back out and does all his whole song list and then does Santa Claus is Coming to Town. 15 solutions for curses. That's not something we're going to go over on this show tonight. But we tell people to go to the Real Deal's website, swordsofstmichael.org, and go to the prayers and solutions, and then watch and read the Breaking Curses prayers videos on the Real Deal's YouTube. But prayer 1 and prayer 2, that's on Breaking Curses prayers on swordsofstmichael.org. We usually give those to people and tell them to say them for 9 days straight. Don't miss a day. You got to beat it back down against it. It doesn't get time to stand up, sit up, look around, and start doing its havoc again. This works also for exorcists doing consistently rather than scheduling exorcisms too far apart, because you don't want to give it time to recover. And it does have something like a recovery when you give it too much time and space between when you hit it with prayers, and that's a perfect example of it. So that's where you can go for one thing, but solution for curses, and it's a lot the same that you do for hauntings, oppressions, and so forth, in that because you're attacking the same source. Number 16, ghost hunter, tours, and curses. Big example is a friend of ours. We were on a radio show and talking about curses, more than once, and he called me out of the blue after having not been on there for maybe a year, and says, "You remember when you were talking about curses? I had experienced things lately that makes me think that I'm cursed." And I asked him to detail it with and to give the specifics, and he started basically outlining things that definitely sounds like way too many things that have a series of bad luck events without having the stress or anxiety or something that may provoke this kind of bad thinking, confusion or whatever that could cause things to seem like they're going bad. Because a lot of times life can just distract us, and you can have car wrecks and be off. But you also don't want to let curses wreak havoc on you when it's not your mind, it's your spirit that's going through this. So with this, the person actually went to a haunted location that was known to be a demonic haunt, from my understanding of it. And so I had him say the prayers. I think his was for 3 days instead of 9. And he says it even feels lighter in his life. That was unexpected. And all the series of unfortunate events, a bunch of things too. And I was like, oh my gosh, man, you are cursed. They all stopped. It just ended. And they're all unrelated. Like whenever your computer goes out, something electronic, something mechanical, relationships, fighting, stress, job, people driving around you, that kind of thing. Car wrecks, who knows? So just be careful when you go to those places, especially when you're not going there for the sake of doing we'll just say the charitable work of trying to solve the haunting. You are not protected in the same way when you're going there just because you're curious. Curiosity kills the cat. I'm sorry to say that, but you do put yourself in a certain very vulnerable risk, and you won't get the same intercession from the heavenly angels and saints like a guy who likes doing death wish stuff, climbing rocks without harnesses, doing a lot of skydiving and Evel Knievel jumps across canyons and motorcycles. You're going to say your guardian angel prayer and you're going to, expect full answers when you're being foolish like that. So in the same sense, when you're going to a demonic playground, unfortunately, you're not going to really get the same level of protection as you are if you're going there to help the people. So that's the bad thing about Ghost Hunter versus Ghostbusters, if you want to use that mainstream term. So, number 17, payback, revenge, and retaliation. This is, of course, when you're actually getting a revenge for being a meddler. You're meddling with demonic affairs, and they will hit you with the symptoms of curses that makes you, well, some people don't even know why it happened, and they don't even cross-associate because they're like, well, curse, the demonic, I'm not getting things that bump in the night, I'm not getting 3 a.m. wake-ups, and, that's the traditional way. Usually they like to mess your life up. And if you see an indication you have one in your life, at least you know what to do about it. But when it comes at you in a form of like bad luck, no one even thinks about it as something you treat like a haunted house. Getting the solution of that. So if you're involving yourself, and if you're a ghost hunter, or if you're in the mainstream doing anything that involves and coming in contact, even with insane asylums and so forth, you're helping people. Why would you go to an insane asylum, as a nurse or anything like that, unless you're helping people? And the proximity effect, as been pointed out in point number 1. Payback, revenge, retaliation is any sort of, just a result of some form of trying to help someone who's demonically affected in one way or another. The level of what you're going to get is a different story in itself. Depends on a lot of variables. Okay, number 18, certain sounds, symbols, words, and images. Another show we don't have, clips and images, and we don't want to put that stuff up anyway. It's like, hey, don't look at this image, or don't listen to this. Putting the sounds up. But that some images are actually representative of demons. It's not that man came up with it and said, this represents Gorok, the demon of rock. And then they make up a little symbol, or take a chisel, and they all day in the caveman days or something. No, it's not like that at all. The demons give them that symbol. They're the ones who gave them through automatic writing, or just have it, somehow show up magically on a surface, or whatever way they exchange the information. The information was given from the demons, that gave them, provided this information a lot of times, and especially in the older faiths, instead of just through the dabblers. And this is true about the words too, not just trial and error from these ancient pagans and occultists. So symbols, images, and even sounds, which can be certain forms of music. You wonder why they do these kind of maddening, high-paced bongos when they start to look like they're becoming possessed, and their eyes roll back in their head when they're doing these voodoo dances. Or you remember the old tritone? I didn't research that too much. Supposed to be 3 tones. I don't even know what they are. I'm not, they act like that was supposed to call the devil. There might be some truth in that without looking into it further, but in that particular one, the tritone. Now, there is truth in it in general, that they do all these things together, and it's part of like the conjuring ritual, so to speak, or something to bring the dark one forward, or whatever the dark ritual might entail. We don't want to promote or talk about that in too much detail. Just know it is there. So all these things are relevant: sound, symbols, words, images, things that affect the senses, even smells. Incense. That's why I say don't use sage. It's never been used by Christians or Jews. It's not serving God. It's from pagan worship. And even Crowley, the most evil man in the world when he was living, used that stuff. Why would you want to use something that Crowley used, for example? And it's out there. And frankincense and myrrh is the one, even without it being blessed, they don't like that, the evil spirits, for some reason. Something significant about it, like there is with blessed holy water. The purity of beeswax, olive oil. These things are relevant for other reasons besides, supposed purity or whatever. And frankincense and myrrh is a little bit of a mystery. It's kind of a strange thing, and it was rare to the point where when Jesus received it from one of the Magi, it was a special gift to get that. It must have been hard to attain. It could have been expensive on the market, and it was probably really needed. That the world before Jesus came, how demonic was it infested? Or with were spirits everywhere? Because that's what it affects. Let's go to number 20. I'm sorry. Objects used for evil belonging to evil people. This is the proximity effect as I was talking about, and this has to do with number 14, finding cursed items, because that's what makes it relevant, is objects, and that's an item. And that's what we mean. We're talking about physical objects. Person, place, or thing. This is the thing. So since it's been covered already, more or less, in other ones, I'm not going to go into it. Because I think we all know what we mean when a relative dies and then they give you a box of stuff. Or, your family member goes, oh, your Aunt Elsie had this in the basement. She wanted you to have it before she died. And you find some strange objects in there you can't identify. And then you notice that symptoms of a haunting come through it after that. Into your house, into your life, with symptoms of curses. That's relevant, definitely. Number 20, curses, illnesses, and hardships. This is related to more, that of the things that can happen besides just being affected, as though with an evil presence. That affects the senses. It is also affecting your life. We already know that. So these are also signs that you're a curse. This is why it's denoted as A. And that people seldom look to this. They don't know to. They think that I'm not getting visited by a shadow person, or what are the other symptoms would be 3 a.m. wake up, sleep paralysis, very strange and vivid evil dreams. And they're not looking at their life. They're not looking at this strange illness the doctors can't explain that you didn't have before. And it eases its way in over a period of a year. Fibromyalgia seems to be a real popular one. The cancer, when it's a direct curse from witches, I can't tell you how many ex-witches said that they put a curse on somebody and they got cancer within a week. And they found out, how can you find out that you got cancer so quick? Well, these people were being honest. They weren't bragging about it, although some people might. So we called, cancer is a creeping death anyway. So the reality of this is we expect cancer to come from being the proximity evil. It is something very, besides the obvious. So, my dad died of throat cancer. Doesn't mean it's always going to be that way, but for some reason, demonic curses, curses in general, often when they put that on people, all they can do is give a person cancer. There's some form of another, leukemia or whatever. What's the most common one? I don't know. I'd have to review cases and think about it. But let's wrap that up. I think this is just pretty much, and a lot of these things can go into more detail, but I just don't want to leave people hanging because we're not going over this show next week. We're going through with the show, and then we have scheduled. So Mr. Tornado has kind of calmed down a little bit, and I'll tell everybody good night. God bless. And we'll see you guys next week.
The Real Deal TV show, copyright 2018, a Swords of St. Michael production. Any unauthorized duplication or rebroadcast or retransmission of this broadcast without the express written permission of the Swords of the Saint Network or that of Kenneth and Farah Deel is strictly prohibited.